Well, hello. I hope everybody is doing well today. My name is John Lange. For those that don't know me, I'm a teacher at Roseville Middle School. I teach science mostly to eighth graders. Today, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Even though the schools are shut down, it's important that you keep your mind sharp, and one of the best ways to do that is by reading. So today, I'd like to read something for you. Since I am a science teacher, I'm going to be reading an article from Science World magazine. It's dated February 17th of 2020. The article is called Search for a Monster. Let's see, let me begin here. A few years ago, an American tourist peered out over a murky lake in Scotland and spotted something unusual in the water. He later described it as large, dark, and about the length of a school bus. But before he could snap a photo, the odd object disappeared beneath the surface. The lake the man was visiting was Loch Ness, one of the largest in the United Kingdom, and he wasn't the first person to spy something mysterious there. For centuries, people have reported seeing strange, moving shapes in the lake's cloudy waters. Many believe they've glimpsed an elusive creature known as the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie for short. There are plenty of theories about Nessie. Some people believe it's a plesiosaur, an extinct prehistoric marine reptile that had a long neck. Others speculate that it's an enormous fish, or it could simply be a log. Although thousands of people have claimed to see Nessie, no one has been able to prove for certain that a large beast really lurks in the lake. If there were any scientific evidence to support Nessie's existence, Neil Gemmell thought he might know how to find it. Gemmell is a biologist at the University of Otago in New Zealand. In 2018, he rounded up an international team of scientists to travel to Scotland. We set out to answer a simple question. What living things are in Loch Ness, says Gemmell. To answer the question, we plan to use a brand new technology. Gemmell specializes in ecological genetics. He examines pieces of DNA, the molecule that carries hereditary information that creatures leave behind in the environment. This material is called eDNA. All creatures have identical copies of their unique genetic instructions in every one of their cells. This eDNA gets scattered into their surroundings as they shed fur, hair, skin, scales, and feathers, as well as when they leave behind pee, droppings, and saliva. Scientists like Gemmell can detect traces of this DNA in samples of air, soil, ice, and water. That's what he planned to do at Loch Ness. He hypothesized that if there was a monster in the water, then its DNA would be there too. When Gemmell's team reached the lake, they boarded a small research boat named Deep Scan. Over the course of 2 weeks, they sailed the entire length of the loch, collecting water samples at different depths. They even scooped up water from an area where Nessie had supposedly last been spotted. The researchers also sampled water from nearby lakes, not believed to have resident monsters, to use as controls or standards to compare the results against. Once the eDNA was extracted from the water samples, it was sent to several universities around the globe. Researchers got to work identifying what species the DNA belonged to. By sorting out the DNA in a water sample, we get a snapshot of all the creatures, from bacteria, which are single-celled microbes, to vertebrates, or animals with a backbone, in the area at a moment in time, says Gemmell. If any mysterious DNA turned up that didn't match a known species, then it could possibly belong to Nessie. Gemmell wanted to make sure the DNA analysis was as accurate as possible, so he had the teams conduct their tests independently of one another. Gemmell's group had collected multiple samples from each site they visited on the loch, so each team received similar ones to study. The results of the labs would be compared to make sure they all identified similar species. The teams were also blind to, or didn't know, where the samples they were studying had been collected. We wanted to avoid experimenter bias, said Gemmell. That's a process where scientists performing research unconsciously influence the results toward a certain outcome. We didn't want the fact that the DNA came from Loch Ness to motivate them to look for something unusual. The analysis of eDNA from Loch Ness revealed that the lake is home to some 3,000 species. Most are microscopic, and some, like certain fish species, aren't native to the lake. Invasive species are the real monsters of Loch Ness, says Gemmell. They don't belong in the loch and could destroy its ecosystem. Of course, the question everyone wants us to answer is, did you find anything that explains what the legendary monster or creature is, says Gemmell. Maybe. His team didn't find evidence to support the popular notion that a Jurassic Age reptile lives in Loch Ness. Our analysis found zero reptile DNA, says Gemmell. The plesiosaur idea doesn't hold up based on the data that we have. The DNA evidence also didn't support that the fabled monster might be a giant catfish, sturgeon, or shark. There's no shark DNA in Loch Ness, says Gemmell. No evidence of catfish or sturgeon either. But scientists did find something unusual: an extraordinary amount of DNA belonging to eels, snake-like fish. We can't discount the possibility that there may be giant eels in Loch Ness, says Gemmell. So, could Nessie actually be an unusually big eel? People say they've seen very large ones in Loch Ness, says Gemmell, but further investigation is needed to confirm or refute that theory. Although Gemmell's experiment may not have found concrete proof of Nessie, he's still pleased with the results. We went to Loch Ness to discover the species that lived there, he says. Our analysis did just that. We now have an excellent database that will enable us to identify trends and changes in the loch's environment. As for the Loch Ness Monster, even if science could prove or disprove its existence, it probably wouldn't matter, says Gemmell. There will always be people who believe in Nessie. People love a mystery, and we've used science to add another chapter to Loch Ness's mystique. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully, soon we'll have more events like this. Maybe not always reading science articles, could be other things. That's it for today. Again, my name is Mr. Lange, science teacher at Roseville Middle School. Have a great day.